and welcome to episode 525 of the God is a Geek podcast. My name's Adam Cook, and I'm joined by the one and only Chris Hyde. Are you the only one?
What?
I interrupted you before you even said hello. Are you the one and only Chris Hyde, do you think?
I'm the only one worth knowing. I was just going to say, because there's no... I mean, we might just wait until the other person says hello, but like, whatever, but I'll start talking. The number, I was like, the number is like, I'm surprised you didn't do like a working 5 to 5 or something like that, because we ain't going to get to 9 to 5, are we? Let's be honest.
Well, on that positive note, hello, Lyle Carr.
I'll be here on 9 to 5. Don't you worry.
Do you reckon after 400 more, we should just rock it out as a theme tune?
We should. We completely changed the theme that episode. It's
Yeah.
just full,
I mean,
just Dolly all the time.
Full Dolly Parton.
Chris, you're like the maths expert. How many do we do a year? If we were to do a podcast every single year, every single week even.
One a year.
One a year.
Yeah.
And never miss one. But
but
including the Game of the Year ones, they're technically episodes of the podcast.
No, but the numbered ones where we'd actually say it.
Yeah.
So it'd be the best part of 8 years.
Sounds like
That's
a challenge.
what I'm saying, like...
Yeah, we got that. No problem.
2031.
I've got nothing else on.
Yeah,
No.
okay.
So-
Put it in the calendar.
Yep, no, okay, that's fine. This week we have got plenty of games to discuss, as usual. We've got some really, I think, quite a diverse sort of split of three games to discuss.
It's an eclectic collection, isn't it? It really is. Something for everybody.
It is, but I suppose we should sort of strike while the iron is hot, as it were, because on the back of last week with Final Fantasy 16 reviews going up, you mentioned you played the demo, Chris, and now you've played the final game, so we may as well sort of continue on from that. So
the final game of Final Fantasy. There's some
Final Fantasy.
There. The final. So yeah, I've been playing some Final Fantasy 16. I obviously had played the demo last week, and we were talking then like this is something a little bit special. Some of the like cutscenes and moments and story stuff, even in the demo, kind of you're like, okay, I'm here for this. It's all cocks and fuck yous and all that sort of stuff. It's just a little bit darker. And yeah, I have to say, I actually don't know how many hours I'm in, but I mean, it's difficult because you probably, my 10 hours is going to be different to your 10 hours because like, well,
I don't think so on this occasion. I think on normally, yes.
The start is quite linear in terms of you don't have much freedom to go places. It's literally like, because like you said last week, right? It's not like an open world. It is like it's like bloody Super Mario 3. You literally go on a map to a different area, a level, and then you explore that level, right?
Yeah.
Just in 3D. I guess the difference is, without fail, I will explore every pixel of that particular map open area, just in case there's a flashing blue item hidden behind the bush.
You see, I think you're going to come unstuck if you do that in this particular game.
I think you'll find... I don't think you quite understand the enjoyment I get from doing that, though. I can't... I do. It's difficult to explain without spoiling, but I will say that there are certain locations that are reused in a way I wasn't expecting, and not a good way, in that I was trying to find stuff as well in the similar method that you're talking about, and it was only when I realised, wait, are they hinting at that area? Because I've already done that in that area, and it was like, yeah, we ran out of space, basically. We didn't want to make another environment, so you have to go back to that place and do that thing. And both the things I'm talking about and this, I know how vague and shit this sounds. But no, I appreciate
they're both basically optional things in exactly the same location. But the way the game was for me, it was like once I'd done the first one, I was like, well, that's done. That area won't have this again. And then it did, and it's like, oh, that's interesting, because it's not a game I would levy the complaint at it of, well, they could have spent a bit more money on it, really.
No, you said that last week.
Yeah, not that.
I mean, I'll have to wait and see to experience it. There are a couple of areas that I'm coming across now where I'm like, I would definitely be coming back here because that's interesting and I can't do anything with it type thing. Or like, that's something I can interact with but can't interact with it in the proper way yet. Like... So there's things like that I know I'm going to come back to, not because I've been exploring really off the beaten track, just because, there's presumably stuff to go back and do, whether it's story related or optional. But I I'm just having such a good time with it so far. I'll say right here, right now, I didn't pay one jot of attention to you about the side quests.
No, I knew you wouldn't.
Every time a green icon comes up with an optional side quest on the map, because it's a massive green icon.
Yep.
I can't go, well, Adam said, he specifically said, just ignore them.
He did.
I'm like, well, I could just do them now. And I do. And I clear every single side mission before I carry on with anything. But like I said last week, they are a bit pathetic. But then, like, they've always been pathetic. Let's not pretend they've all been like...
I don't think
No,
they're
come on
of
now.
this level.
Like,
Not at this level with this budget in this era. Not for me.
Listen. I understand that The Witcher 3 exists, right? Christ, I even accept that Tears of the Kingdom exists, right? I get that there are...
It's good that you accept these things.
No,
Yes.
but do you know what I mean? Like, there are games that
Big of
have
them.
meaty side quests that you stick with you and you remember. But let's also not pretend that even in either of those two games, there aren't really straightforward, linear, basic side quests. Go here, kill that, well done, thanks. And that's and I'll, that is what these are so far. That is all there. But it's like, it's fine. Because actually, when I'm mopping up the map, it doesn't actually take me that long to do them, which is a good thing because it means I crack on. But I am really loving it. Again, don't want to spoil a lot, but Adam, I've got to a bit where I have unlocked more combat stuff, shall we say, an extra sort of tranche of stuff to play with, which, from what I can gather, is going to be one of the ways that the combat expands over time, and you can tailor how you kind of combo stuff and fight and select stuff on the fly. And I'm already experimenting with unlocking different abilities and swapping in and out and all that sort of stuff. And it just feels so smooth and lovely. That the other problem is, along with the side missions, I cannot leave an enemy alone on the map because combat is so goddamn fun. And that loop of staggering and then wailing on them and then staggering them again and then wailing on them and then having your combos and special moves and zipping about the place. For me, it just hasn't got boring once yet, even though I'm using very similar abilities over and over again because it's just so fluid. It does exactly what I want it to do. If I get hit, it's because I've been a bit crap. Like, do you know what I mean? It genuinely, it's a very good combat system, very reactive. It feels really tight, and I'm having a really good time. The story, I'm really enjoying the story so far. It's interesting. There's a load of characters. I will say that I forget the term of it. Is it active lore, whatever it is, where you can press the pad and it tells you, here's the things you should care about. Every game should fucking do that. That is
I've heard
brilliant.
that a lot.
I love the fact that, especially when you have cutscenes where you're like, sorry, who the fuck's this? Because there's a lot of characters, like you pointed out, and they introduce some new ones towards the start. And you're like, sorry, why should I care about you? I'll just pause it and you go, here's him. Here's one paragraph about this
My
person.
only issue with that is it sort of sometimes felt a bit like they'd sort of solved a problem that they created.
I
understand what you're saying, and I've seen people say, "Oh, every game should have that," but at the same time, I don't really want to start pausing every cutscene in every game all the time. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing because I think it's quite a cool idea. But to me, it feels more like a solution that they've needed to create.
I disagree to that. I feel like for me, it's when it's entirely optional. It's not like you've got to do it to understand the story. But if you're like, oh, sorry, who was that character again? Then you can just do it. And sometimes you remember certain characters. Sometimes you forget certain characters.
But this is what I'm saying. The overall product, so to speak, is that I feel like I wouldn't have needed that if I wasn't not following my own advice and I wasn't doing loads of these side missions that were so rote. That if I was just focusing on the story, and again, that's of their own design. If they put side content and I want to do it, that's on me. But also, if you don't want me to do it because it's going to confuse the narrative, don't put it in the game. Like, I actually don't think it would have hurt the game if they cut some of that side content and started it later.
I agree to an extent, but again, it's like with any big game, like I've mentioned it before earlier. If you're on The Witcher, you can easily go off on a massive tangent and then forget what the heck you're supposed to be doing. And it's actually quite nice to have. Again, it's really optional.
But other games have done similar. Like I've played one recently, and I can't for the life of me think of what it is. Sometimes there are games when you load. In fact, it's The Witcher that does it. That you mentioned it. When you load into that, because it used to be quite a long load-in before all this. You would get like a story summation of what was going on, and a lot of games do that. And I don't mind that. It's kind of that, but in a different form for me.
Yeah, exactly. I guess it's that loading screen type thing. I just think it's because it's optional, and it's not one of those ones like on a loading screen. You're like, oh fuck, I was reading that, but it's gone. Like, what was going on? Like, I just think it's
that's another thing. Touch. Like, this game has barely got loading screens.
No,
they couldn't put tips on the loading screen. So again, it feels like a solution for me for sort of a few different things. Partly that it is the way games are, and in fact, they did this with. Forspoken as well, like there were no load times really in that game, and so there was no way of doing it there. I don't think they did that. I do like it. Like, I'm sounding like I'm down on it. I just think I don't want to be pausing cutscenes too often.
No, and listen, this is the thing for me. Like for me, like I just don't see it. I'm not there pausing every cutscene because I'm not a goldfish. Like I know who Clive is. Like it's not like I don't know who these main characters are. But sometimes there will be you'll introduce a new character, or it'll have been a while since you spoke. So sorry, what is this? Or sorry, remind me where these characters are again. It just if you're forgetting, or if you're like there was something on one of them like. Because there's dominance, right? That's not a massive spoiler, right? There's dominance in this. There's big, powerful, magical people, right? That's not in this game. And one of the things on one of it was like they've got these like crystal handcuffs, so they can't like do their magic stuff when they're captured, right? Because they've captured this dominant. And I was like, well, that's interesting. That's an extra bit of lore that I probably wouldn't have picked up on in a cutscene. Because they don't go, oh, look at your handcuffs, like in the dialogue, because that would be weird. So I think that there is extra bits as well, which I think top it off. Like I say, I'm not like stopping every cutscene. It is just for those ones where I'm like, sorry, maybe you're the third person with blonde hair, whatever. Who are you? Or like maybe the you know. So I just think it's a really good idea. I like it when Netflix do it, and it's like, oh, it's that actor. Like I think that's what it reminds me of, and I think it's just a nice extra thing that you don't have to use. You don't ever have to pay attention to if you don't care, but. I really think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I like the idea of like, because I can think of so many TV shows where it's like this like having extra lore, like that you could quickly pause and notice or like be reminded of, because there's a lot of, there'll be like 100 episodes and someone will suddenly come back and you'll be like, oh, who the hell is this? Like, it makes sense in multiple mediums of like this nice little reminder thing. I also think it's really good in terms of like accessibility for people who might need that as an additional,
Yeah. I mean, just again, to be clear, I'm not against it.
No,
I know you said like, oh, every game should do that, and I've seen that on Reddit and stuff.
I probably went a bit too hard.
No, but I get what you mean, because it is a new feature. But
it's a new feature, and I think as well, like if this is something that encourages other games to tell meteor stories, because otherwise they're scared of confusing people, this is a way of telling the story that you want to tell. I'm not saying people are doing that, but I have no idea if they are.
I think it helps because this really does feel Game of Thronesy. Like I don't want to.
It does. Yeah.
Like last week, I don't want to hammer that point, but like the kind of north-south divide, even it really does have the rich and the poor, I guess, and it really does have. And I'm sure there are people who are like, oh, well, actually, before Game of Thrones. But, for a cultural reference point, Game of Thrones, most people know what you're talking about. And I do think because Game of Thrones is the one show, I can't speak for everyone else, but personally, I was really late to it. In fact, I think I watched it, I had like a layoff, or I'd done my back in and could barely move. And it's like, well, do you know what? Everyone, and it was, everyone bangs on about this show at some point. Because sometimes we all have that moment, don't we, where like everyone goes on about something and you're like, I'm going to resist because they can't. You almost want to be there.
Have resisted Game of Thrones.
There you go. Like but I did, because I was literally unable to move. I was like, fine, I'll watch it. And it was one of those where I guess other people who were already 5 series in were like, well, of course that's so and so and so and so. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell is going on. There's a lot going on here. And even I guess people could experience that with The Witcher in terms of the Netflix show, because even as someone who knew the games and had read some of the books, I found like the first couple of episodes of that really not for me, and I was glad I stuck with it in the end. But the opening of that where they do time skips and stuff, don't they?
Yeah, that was, I think, for that reason that you would, when you get your head have to get.
Yes.
I had to rewatch that first series.
I think I did in the end as well. Yeah.
Because when you watch it, when you know what's going on and you watch it again, you're like, that's really cool.
Yeah, but the first time,
you don't expect a story told that way. Yeah. Anyway, we're going really off track, but I really like.
We're allowed
it here. I like the story. I'm really interested in the story.
How are you finding Clive?
Oh, I love Clive. Clive's just like.
I want to ask you a question about him, but go on.
Yeah.
Don't let me forget.
I just think that Clive, he's just the right side of like, because in all of these normal sort of like, I know it's not a JRPG, but the JRPG type hero is just like plucky goody two shoes type thing, and he's not quite that, which is good because I've played as that character many times. I'm not saying he's that his background is completely unique, because come on, let's not pretend that's true. I just like the fact that it's like, there's just other sort of layers to him. He's not just like, we must do this for the good of the kingdom kind of crap that like most like heroes would be. And it just is, I'm just really resonating with him. I've obviously discovered stuff through the story that's showing off his like emotions and how he's feeling, and I feel
so that actually ties in what I wanted to ask you actually, because I've seen people like go a bit doolally about his voice acting and how amazing it is, and like for the most part, like I do think the voice acting in this game is absolutely superb.
Is great. Yeah.
Like it, even at this early stage, I think it will come as no surprise that I need to go to our running Game of the Year list, and for best new character, it's actually not Clive for me. I'd want to put Jill on there.
Yeah.
And probably Torgal. I don't know if that. Have you ever had an animal that doesn't actually converse in human speak on that list? I don't know, but Torgal would be. He's got to have a shout.
We started it with the squirrel from God of War last year. We were kind of leaning into it.
Then Torgal can definitely be on it.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point being, I was wondering how many like really highly I don't know how far you were in, and I really don't want to spoil anything, but there were a couple of moments in the story where like. I don't want to say, I don't know, just some of them, the deliveries were like, because this is the thing, right? Nowadays, voice actors, the talent, so to speak, is phenomenal. Like, we know this, like, Christ, you could go back as, like, when Nolan North was in everything, like, and now you are getting new names and more names, and that's great. But I feel like the talent used is of such a high quality that, generally speaking, when you spot something and it makes you sort of go, it's not that they're not good at their job. It's that someone in the production has said,
do it like
"Can
this.
you do another take? But can you do it like that?" Because that's what they wanted. Because they're the, shall we say, creative. It's their vision. And there were a couple of moments where I did sort of go, "It's been so good. Like the delivery has been so good that there's just a couple of moments in it." And I wonder if I'm like, I can't tell if it's actually really good because it's weird and realistic, or it's bad because it's trying to be realistic.
So I can't think of a moment that you're talking about.
Okay,
if I'm honest.
Fair.
I
mean, there's a bit in the demo when he screams. Chris White and I both text each other to say like, "This is a lot darker than I thought it was going to be."
Well, I'm gonna speak in code, but you'll know what I mean, right?
This is fun, Lyle. You're like a listener right now. This is what it's like.
I am the listener.
In the demo. At the end of the demo, story-wise, obviously gameplay-wise stuff, but story-wise, something pretty significant happens, and I was sitting there going, "Hang on, has this just happened?"
Okay, I know where the demo ends now. I've been wondering. Now I know.
Yeah.
Okay,
and I was like, no, but that's not how. Then obviously, as the story's progressed, Clive has then realised this is what's happened. And I'm like, okay,
right.
I wasn't being stupid, but that's what I thought had happened. But then I doubted myself, and then it's come back. Like,
I'm not going to spoil, but I will say what you're referring to, I think, and we need to move on because this is just too cryptic for the listener, but I will say what I think you're referring to, and we'll have to talk about this later when it comes to the Game of the Year discussions. It's one of the few parts of the story I don't think they ever quite resolve properly. Like, it's one of the ones that when everything was done and the credits had rolled and I'd finished with it, I'd written guides, I'd done 20 hours of side quest extra, I was still like, I feel like they got away with that because so much more happens that most people won't go back and go, hang on, What about? Do you know what I mean? It's one of them. Now I will be
Right.
really interested when the time has passed and more people, like both of you, in fact,
Yeah.
have played it, and we'll chat to Chris White as well. And I know Mick's playing it as well as we speak. I think he told me he's playing more of it tonight. It'll be really interesting to see if maybe it's just one of those things I missed.
Yeah,
but it was just there's a it's too cryptic. We can't. It's not good podcasting.
No, it's not. It's not
cryptic.
good. But what I will say is like, I'm really loving it. I really am, and you know, obviously last week when I was speaking, it was just the demo that from the combat perspective that I was talking about. The combat's just got better and better, and I don't even think I've scratched the surface of where the combat goes. I'm sure I haven't, but like, it's I love it. I love it. I love the loop, and then I love the story. So I'm having a really, really good time with it. Like I really am. So long may it continue. Like I'm really into this game. Really living it.
How the Christ are you supposed to pivot to Dave the Diver?
I don't know, but I really want to know about this game. Like I need to hear.
Well, I think going from Clive to Dave. That's how you do the pivot. You go. You've got the two best protagonists in gaming right now in Clive and Dave, clearly. A great crossover coming, I'm sure. Dave the Diver is... Dave the Diver is It's magic how much...
you bottled it. I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for you to distill in a sentence what this game is. Because
that's what I want to know.
That's difficult though. It is a ridiculous bag of a billion ideas, and also two main concepts. One that is exploring into the depths of the blue hole, which is a big area of the sea that changes.
It's not called the blue hole.
It's called the blue hole. Yep.
Yeah,
the blue hole, which is just like basically this bit of the ocean that every day magically shifts shapes and has fish from all over the world in it. So Dave gets called in by his friend with a sushi restaurant and is like, do you want to come and do some diving in the blue hole? Because it's got all this fish in and it'd be great.
That sounds like such a pickup line. Dave, do you want to come diving in the blue hole?
Come dive in the blue hole, mate. Dave just hops on a plane. The opening credits are just while he's on a plane, very slowly traveling to the blue hole.
Drinking ginger beer, isn't it? Or was it root beer? No, root beer.
Yeah, having a root beer on a plane. He gets there and you dive in the water, and when you're in the water, you swim about. You have like an oxygen meter, which slowly goes down, but also if you get hit by anything, you lose oxygen. So it's like your health and your timer. And
really like that, by the way. Sorry to interrupt, but I really like that there's not a health bar and an oxygen bar. It's like, look, if you get hit, you're taking away some of your oxygen. I really do like that.
And there's
clever.
Plenty of ways to restore it as well. And as long as you don't get like really battered, it probably won't be too big a deal. And then you've got your harpoon, which you fire into various fish. Like little fish will probably just get harpooned and come straight back to you. Bigger fish, you might need to hit a few times. You might have to do a little mini game of like spinning the stick or tapping A or entering...
Oh, sorry. I thought like there was a mini game called Spinning the Stick.
Well, that's what I call it. It's just spinning the stick. And then, you know, once you've got your fish, you go back to the surface and you go to the sushi restaurant, and you also sort of work front of house at the sushi restaurant. So customers come in and you have to run to the kitchen, grab an order, take it to the customer. You have to pour them some miso soup, and you've got to pour it above 80%.
So now it's overcooked. Is that what we're talking about?
Sort of a little bit, yeah. So this is the very baseline, like first 30 minutes of this game.
Right.
But almost immediately after that, you will get a new system or a new mechanic thrown at you, maybe every 20 minutes for the rest of this about 20-hour game. So you'll go diving, and a very basic one will be you'll get some gloves so you can pick up sea urchins or move rocks about, and that's really helpful for a variety of reasons. Or there's some much more intense ones, you start hiring staff for these restaurants so that you've got other waiters who zoom around with food too, but they won't be able to pour drinks or pour the miso soup, and you have to do that part of it.
No, there's not staff that can't pour drinks.
Yeah, they can't.
But I really like doing that. So I don't know if I'm, Lyle's finished it, I've not. Mm-hmm. I don't foresee a time where I don't want to pour those drinks.
I mean, later on,
Yeah,
you'll maybe want to upgrade your staff to help you with those tasks by, training them. That's a thing you can do.
Liquid.
Yeah, training them how to pour liquid. It's a very intense course, I'm sure.
Hey, there is an art to pouring a pint. Let's not pretend there isn't.
There is an art to pouring a pint. I'll give you that.
And miso soup. Apparently, I don't know.
They're both of them an art form, but yeah, you'll get to a point where you might need that, so you can pay to upgrade your staff. I'm kind of being deliberately obtuse about this game because some of the things that get added later on are like mind blowing. Like, how have you just added an extra half of the game to this game?
Because
type thing.
I'll interject here because the reason I said what is this game, right, is because Adam's been plopping on to me to play this and to buy it. So I've been sort of hovering over the Steam page for quite a while, like, waiting for a sale and stuff, going, right, let's get it. And you can watch the videos of the trailers essentially. The trailer looks like this random montage of like 8 different games, and I was like, sorry, what is this?
I wouldn't have wanted to put together a kind of sizzle reel of this game to try and showcase it. I really wouldn't.
Different games.
It is. That is exactly it.
Can I say what I saw in the trailer? Because it's the trailer.
I
swear I saw Stardew Valley on that trailer, and I was just like,
I think I know what you mean.
I was like, what am I? I think I might be wrong. Some sort of rhythm thing. I was like, what the heck is going on here? Like, I was just like, I like
there's
all
boss
of those
fights.
things.
Did we mention there's boss fights?
There are boss fights.
Of course there is.
By the way, though, what I really liked about the boss fights that I've experienced 2 or 3 of so far, I think. Sometimes you get into this because the thing is, when you go diving, let's talk about the diving portion of the game. When you go diving, you can shoot your harpoon as much as you want, and you can upgrade it by finding stuff in trunks, where you've got trank darts, blah, blah, blah. But you also have a gun, which different types of guns. Some are just guns. There's like you said, there's a stun gun. There's a net. You can cast a net across like multiple fish and just catch them at once.
You can just have a grenade.
Grenade launcher. Which is particularly brilliant. Sniper rifle, the red thing, that is great. I really like that until I found the stun gun.
Underwater weapons.
Yeah.
Well, they're not. I mean, we're perhaps simplifying what they are, but it is it's a game.
Oh no,
you can get guns that.
I don't think this is a game to be taken seriously in that sense.
Not necessarily, no.
But like, I was all over that sniper until because it was so powerful, and I could shoot some of the harder to kill things from further, obviously, until I got the stun gun, and that became my mainstay. But that means when you get into a boss fight, you're like, oh, I've been doing, because the thing is, it's quite tempting, even when you've got it's one of them games where you might set out, go, right, today, I'm going to just tick off the main things. I got enough fish.
It's not one of those.
It is one of them things, and it's a bit, I don't want to say it's a bit like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, not to that degree, but you do set out with right, this is the thing I'm aiming for in this day, or this dive.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going to a boss fight, having on the way down been like, oh, I'm just gonna and that and okay, but I'm going the right way, so I'll just keep progressing that way. And I got into a boss fight with quite a large creature. But it's really clever about the difficulty. Like you see it and you're like, I am absolutely going to die. That's really annoying because I've got a box full of some stuff that I actually need for some side quests that I hadn't found prior. Like I really needed those 2 bits of steel, and I'm going to die. And if you do die, you basically can pick one thing from your inventory. The rest is you're underwater, so they rescue you plus one thing. So I'm going to definitely not fulfill that objective because I am going to die. But the way the difficulty is dialed so cleverly, I found, that not only does it... Like, I don't know if this was scripted or not. I did run out of ammo, and there is there's some ammo there, and there's an oxygen thing there, because again, you're underwater, so you need to refill. But I'd used them, and then... The creature I was defeating, in the process of defeating, did a thing that made it shook everything. And that shook out more, like it shook out a chest that had ammo in it. And I'm like, now either that's brilliant design and they know you're in that, they know this is going to happen to you, or it's reacted to the fact I've got 0 ammo and I'm thinking, shit, or 1 ammo. But either way, whichever it is, that's really clever. I would love to know. I really wish I had played this like the very first early access release to see what it was, because But then even saying that, it's been like, it could only have been a year because it was last year at some point. It's so difficult to describe because like what they've done here is it's kind of magical. Like I remember texting you, Lyle, and saying every single time, I wouldn't even say I'm like, oh, I'm a bit bored of this mechanic, but every time I feel like, okay, I've got this now, they introduce something else, and it's like, what? Every one of them, it's like they're like 10 steps ahead of you every single second you play it. They are so far ahead of you. It feels like it's been play tested really well. Like the pacing is exquisite. Like they know this. Maybe just people like us, Lyle, I don't know, but they know the second you're just starting to go, okay, now I've got that. Oh, and it is that every time. It's like, are you serious? Are you serious? What? And I don't want to spoil stuff, but then there's like, is it chapter 3 where something happens, and I'll say no more than something happens, where it's like, they're actually taking the piss out of me now. Like, they are actually like subverting expectations in a way that no game of this magnitude has any right to do. Like, if it were a AAA blockbuster, a Final Fantasy, then you go, okay, you've got the budget, you've got the time, you've got the nous, but the shit this game throws at you, you are just sitting there going, I don't know how this exists. I don't know how this exists. Like, it is so remarkable in how it just, I don't know, it just knows how you play games. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And then, I mean, it's just like there's so many games like this. Like if you were playing, because a game kind of similar to this is sort of Cult of the Lamb, in that it's got that sort of two-half mentality of like, you go out to do this thing to help, like you go out to do the roguelike bit to get things to help your cult grow.
Yes.
It's sort of a similar sort of thing in going out to get fish to help the restaurant grow, to get money to upgrade for diving. That sort of like two sides of the game.
Yes.
But the way that it works in this is just like every time, like in that game, it was I would go out and I'd be like, well, I desperately need like wood, so I'm going to just focus on getting wood, for example. But in this game, anytime you go out, there's not necessarily anything you will like need that's just like a basic material. There'll just be some sort of mission that you could aim towards, and there's always something to aim towards doing, whether it's like a smaller checkbox type thing to maybe get some like do some more optional things, or it can be you've got someone coming to the sushi restaurant who is going to pay more for tuna in 3 days, so you need to catch some tuna. But on top of that, it could be you go exploring, you're expecting to maybe just go and grab some fish, and suddenly a side quest sort of starts happening while you're in the water, and you're like, oh, I didn't think, like, I'm in an area I've been through hundreds of times. I wasn't expecting a quest to suddenly pop off, but it has. There's always something going on, and it's always really engaging. Like, there weren't any side quests either where I was doing them and I was like, okay, you just want me to go down and collect like 5 shells and it's boring and anything like that. Like, there's always so much to do and so much of a variety of things to do that it's great. And it's also gorgeous in the water.
Yes.
Like exploring the underwater world is really amazing. Like the aesthetic really lends itself to these like beautiful underwater environments, or sometimes quite scary underwater environments, really.
I will say also that, because like I could almost imagine Chris wincing when we mentioned Cult of the Lamb, and I'm hesitant to do it for obvious reasons.
A little bit.
However, what I would say, because I do agree with what Lyle said, everything Lyle said I agree with here. I will say that what this does differently, and it's a really major difference, is I think Dave the Diver compartmentalizes the sections of the game in a way that when you are doing one, you never feel you are missing out on not doing the other.
Because that was the one thing that
and
I
that's
always
why
felt.
I want to mention it. That is a key
because
difference.
that was the thing with Cult of the Lamb, where I was like, it feels like I want to do this bit, but by doing this, I'm killing that bit.
Yes.
And
this is not that. This is one thing. Because I'm with you. I think it would have turned me off of this game. It does. Like I say, it's a really big difference for me is that when you're diving, you're not missing out, because you dive at set points, and
it's
the
basically you
restaurant
dive
is
in
running
the
at
day
different times.
and you do the
Yes.
restaurant at night, isn't it?
And that
essentially?
does develop, and I won't spoil
It
how or
does.
why, but it develops in a way that I was like, oh, now are you going to make me choose? It still doesn't. Like it is compartmentalized in a really smart way, so that whatever you choose to do, you are never missing out or disadvantaging yourself in the other side of the game.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that is a really key thing for me. Like I think it does that really. It's weird. Like it's. I don't have anything bad to say about it. Like I mean, I know you like in the review, Lyle, you mentioned I forget now. Did you say in the middle or near? There's like a bit of a sag story wise,
like
but
a little bit, yeah. Like in the middle,
I haven't
there's
hit that
just
yet.
a little, yeah. It's also it's not major. It's just this sort of bit where I was like, well, I was getting into this groove of like, you know, enjoying exploring the ocean and then enjoying doing the sushi bit. And there's a bit where you kind of have to go through an area where there's not as much to do. It's kind of more focused on a story and sort of a certain type of quest that makes it a little bit slower paced for this little section of the game. But realistically, it's not a big deal. It's just it was the one lull of a game that is pretty much amazing.
I don't know if I find it fascinating as well. Is that obviously this is a game. There's so many mechanical aspects you could mention, but obviously you can upgrade your diving gear. You can, so you can dive deeper, longer with the oxygen, and hold more in your box, your backpack. Something I found really interesting and wasn't expecting is as I did so. So like at the start of the game, you're just swimming around, base sort of, you just sit under the water, but you can almost see your boat, and you're harpooning these tiny little fish, like almost like neon tetras or something, and they're taking them back and sushiing them up, and you come across these things that you can get, but they're hard work and they probably kill you the first few times. What I found really interesting is that even though this is like pixel art, and some of the fish you can identify just by like, you know what a shark looks like, you know what a dolphin looks like, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
An eel, for example. What I found really, really interesting is that as I was progressing and upgrading, I was like, oh, so that fish before, that when I harpooned it, I had to play a mini game like hammering the A button or flicking the stick, like you said. I don't have to anymore because I'm now my harpoon's stronger, my equipment's better. So now that one that was giving me a bit of not a pain in the ass, but it took longer to catch. Now I just harpoon it, it just catches it. And so you really feel like you're getting stronger, like and progressing, and again, didn't expect that. It does. I think that's the biggest thing for me. There's so much about it I would not expect from this game.
It is wild how much those upgrades feel like such an upgrade. Like there's even stuff like upgrading your backpack to carry more fish. Like as you upgrade it further down the line, you're not getting it like the same amount bigger. Like sometimes you'll upgrade it and it's like it feels like you almost double it from one upgrade, and you're like, well, shit, like, but you'd saved up that money and it feels really worth it. And yes, as you get deeper, like the fish will get bigger and heavier for your bag, so it kind of makes sense. But it's just like all the upgrades just feel great. Like when you upgrade your harpoon and suddenly you're dealing like triple the damage, and it's just like, oh god, I really feel like I'm just so much better at this game now suddenly because I've upgraded and sorted and all the loops have melded together perfectly.
Quick shout out before we move on. I don't think we've mentioned too much of. I quite like the humor of it. Like it's quite silly in places. Like you find a weapon. So it's quite a cool system. You find a weapon or a gun in an underground cache box. And I think, like for example, the grenade launcher, you have to find it 3 different times. And once you find it 3 times during the run, you've kind of gained enough knowledge of the weapon. You can take it to your dealer guy, and he can now build that for you. With the harpoon, it does stuff like not the harpoon. Sorry, with you've got a melee weapon. You start off just with a knife. You can swipe at things. It gets quite silly in a way I really dig. Like you can find a golf club, and you're like swinging a golf club underwater, and there's like a hammer, like a mallet, but it's like a squeaky one. You know this one, and it does the squeak. And I think there's other stuff like that. You can get like a machete and stuff. But I kind of like. It just has that charm. Like it's one of those games.
It's silly, like the little cutscenes you get every time you upgrade a dish and things like that. And
there's more of them than you expect. There's one that I kept thinking they'll just keep repeating the same one, and the second time you do it, it's like, oh. And again, he does the salt bay thing. I like that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of sort of piss taking and like,
It's really difficult for me because I've heard nothing but love, not just on obviously YouTube.
It's pretty universally positive.
A lot of people are saying this is great. The only thing I'm sitting there going, do I stop Final Fantasy for this? This is the only thing. Like, but I don't think it's going to be a good time. Like, Like,
But I don't know. I don't think you need to. I think Final Fantasy, you can see that through, and you might just there might just be some evenings where you're not quite in the mood for combat that detailed or in depth and story that serious. And Dave the Diver's it's quite a good foil for that. I think. I've
They're quite different games.
yeah.
Well, I suppose we could move on to our third choice because you've just been playing the demo of this game, Lyle.
Just literally minutes before the recording started.
And it's quite different again, isn't it?
It is quite different, isn't it? Pikmin 4.
Pikmin 4 demo out now.
Out now. It's really bloody good to be playing Pikmin again. Like, it's one of the series that I just don't think really gets enough love. Like, you don't
100%.
really hear about it being talked about a lot. I guess because it's like one of the first party Nintendo games. It's one of those games where like it's easy to get lost as like, yeah, but people are busy talking about Mario and Zelda and stuff like that. But Pikmin is so charming and nice and just a delight to play. And Pikmin 4, from what I have played of the demo, just like feels like such a good like continuation of that series. Like, it's because at the same time as playing Pikmin 4, I've also been playing Pikmin 1 and 2 HD. So I'm full Pikmin kick here right
Pikmin
now. Yeah. And
well, it's Sean said in his preview for Pikmin 4, and it hadn't actually occurred to me that now the Switch has all 4 Pikmin games on it. Well, not yet, obviously, when it's out, 4 will be, That's cool.
That is very cool. And when you are switching from the original, these GameCube games to the next Pikmin game, like, you really see all these little improvements that they've done. And even like the HUD of like where you'll see as you're about to throw a Pikmin, like you just press the shoulder buttons and you can see which different types you'll want to use instead of just sort of having to, I think you have to hold them and have them ready and then press a shoulder button at the same time to switch Pikmin, and it'll like cycle through them one by one, and you never know which one's definitely going to be next when you're playing it in these original games. Like in this, it's so easy to tell what Pikmin you're about to throw, and sometimes that's pretty important. And then when you're like doing, so in Pikmin you'll have your different colored Pikmin, and there'll be little flowers with little like numbered tokens on that. If you collect them, they make more Pikmin sort of spawn at your little onion bases. And going from Pikmin 1 and 2, where you sort of have to line up your cursor with these flowers and like hope that you've aimed it just right, and they sort of change which color they are as you're doing it, so you're like trying to time it just right, and if you miss the top of the flower, then your Pikmin will have to go to the bottom of it and hit it. And it's this whole thing where it's like you have to line it up, and it's a little bit janky and it's a little bit like precise. And in Pikmin 4, you're wandering over to a flower that's got one of these tokens on, and it locks on your target immediately, and you just cycle to whatever Pikmin color you want to do, and you throw it straight away. It's almost like in Pokemon Legends Arceus, where you just see a wild Pokemon, you just throw a Pokeball and walk off. Like
accessibility, isn't it?
It's that same thing of like,
and they did mention that we went to Sean and I went to a preview event for this and 1-2 Switch. Everybody 1-2 Switch. Everyone.
Yeah.
That's bad. I can't remember the name. Whatever that game is. And that is something that they did a little presentation about Pikmin 4. And one of the things they did want to talk about was like the not accessibility so much as in the traditional term. Like a controller that's more. They wanted the game to be less stringent, less timer based, less like you must do this and this is this. And I'm interested to hear what's in the demo, because the way they described it was kind of like the first when we played it at the preview event. They were kind of suggesting that what we were playing would be what the demo would be or thereabouts, and it was quite generous if that's the case.
The demo seems to be like the first 2 days of the game, essentially. So it's until you've collected 1,500 of the crystally shiny currency. Yeah. So it says as you did launch the demo, basically, once you have earned this much, that's the end of the demo. The demo's over. And I haven't earned that much. I haven't quite got that far into it.
So what Pikmin have you had to... I mean, obviously, red Pikmin are always the first ones you get, but what Pikmin have you had...
You've got the red Pikmin, you've got the dog, you've got...
Oh, of course, Ochi, yeah.
Yeah, who's adorable. I can't remember. I literally switched from playing this to from Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2.
Gotcha.
So the order of what Pikmin I have
What
on each of
Pikmin,
these
yeah.
games is like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
What do you make of Ochi, though? Because I find it absolutely incredible that they haven't announced like an amiibo. Do you know, I don't think you'll be able to see it in the picture, but do you remember the Yoshi's big, the woolly one, the huge one?
yeah.
Huge,
I found it astonishing that they have not announced that yet. Like, surely to Christ, that must be in the pipeline, like,
it
right?
has to be, but he's a great, adorable addition to the game. He has like such different abilities to the Pikmin, but also kind of works a bit like a Pikmin, and it's a really nice little sort of like crossover that he does a bit of everything almost. And I mean, there was sort of an intro as well where you were Olimar riding like a bigger dog, and it was almost a bit like a 3D platformer, and that was
okay.
Sort of a bit
All right,
weird.
yeah.
And it's just this thing where I was like, is this like, it almost felt like that was Pikmin taking Tinykin and being like, okay, well, we'll be that as well now. And it was this weird moment, but like that only lasts for a little bit, and then you sort of go back to the fairly traditional Pikmin gameplay, but like I said, very, very much more of a streamlined, like you can just wander about, you'll tell your Pikmin to do things as you're walking to go do something else. It's a lot more freeform, and I've really enjoyed it. I mean, I've not played a lot of it, but I'm excited to. I think what Nintendo have done in releasing two old Pikmin games just before Pikmin 4, but just the right amount before Pikmin 4, that like if you fancy downloading this, or you saw this in like the Nintendo Direct and was like, oh, and it's available now, I might as well play these old GameCube games that I've heard people say good things about. It's like it for me, it really gave me like the urge to play more of this series, and I imagine they're hoping that that's what happens with as many people as possible.
Yeah, no,
really.
it is something like they're never going to come out and say it, because it's just not the sort of thing Nintendo does. But you can tell they feel this series deserves more. Like you could tell definitely. When they released Deluxe 3, you can just and to me, go on.
Yeah. I was saying, I think there are a few franchises
that
Nintendo have.
Yes, this is one of them, though, definitely.
Yeah, I'd say Metroid's the other one, because obviously they were trying that with Prime, because I think that's clearly was a base for whenever 4 comes out, but for the others in the series. I think there are a few things like that. It's like, if only you try it, we know you'll love it, because the quality's there. Like, I mean, I haven't played obviously Pikmin 1 and 2 for a long time, but I bet
since they came out for me,
I bet that they still hold up, because they're just good,
they really
fun games like that. They're well made.
But that's the other thing, and that's what I got from playing Pikmin 4 in a preview sense, is that I'm not saying there's no stress, but you can tell. I think Lyle, you just literally were playing the demo before we started. Like, you can tell they've tried to remove some of that to make it just.
There's always been this like
pressure.
The sun is moving, like thing, hasn't there? There's always been like, well, I want to get well, you know what I'm like as well, and it was a nightmare when I was playing it with my wife.
I imagine.
Like, we must go over here. Come on, we haven't got long. Chop chop. You know, you want to try and get as much done in each day. Because
you've just made me realise, like she trips over as you're running away from some sort of killer. She's left behind, isn't she? You haven't got to, she's tripped on a branch, and in the film where they run back and they're like, "Come on," she's like, "No, you go without me." You're like, "You're right, okay. I will."
the turning around to check before being told doesn't
too much
happen.
time.
Yeah. It's like, I've already gone, but good to know we're on the same page.
Yeah.
It is like there is. I mean, it's more like I know some of that is coupled with me wanting to like be super organized and all this sort of stuff, but
but you see, mate, this is your game, because this is another thing they talked about. It's called Dondori. Now, Lyle, in the demo, you'll have heard that word.
I have heard that word,
and my word, they're serious about it. Now, Dondori is some sort of art of organization, and as they're explaining this to me, you know, like basically about how you've got to be able to kind of on the fly strategically shift your, you know, because that's kind of what Pikmin's always been, but they are really going for it, and they're explaining this to us, and I'm just sat there going, you've got the right man in the room for this. I'm right here. I am here for this, Nintendo. You've got the right guy. But it's really weird, because this is something Sean pointed out in the preview. Like, it is really weird because in my head it's like, it's just such a nice time. Yeah. But he pointed out that you are killing things and dragging their corpses across the ground.
Yeah.
And it's like
you're ordering about minions dragging corpses back
just
to
like
your
murdering like
other shit.
Weird vegetable creatures and just dragging their lifeless, soulless, because you see their souls leave, and I don't know if that was always there.
But
like it is, it's weird for someone who's obviously like, we know our job is to critique games, but I do hope. I hope like more. I just hope people try the demo, because I think the demo alone makes you go, "Oh, what? Wow, okay, I have never played one of these before," because I was, like you said, Lyle, I was playing in Mario, or I was playing, I don't know, whatever. But like, yeah, it'd be interesting. It would be really interesting, because I mean, who knows with Nintendo? But if this doesn't do well again, you wonder if it will be consigned to the F-Zero cupboard.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And the Punch Out and the Arms was cool, but really, we won't do it again.
That's what worries me. Do you know what? This is what I mean. Like when I obviously mentioned Metroid as well. Like there are certain games where you're like, I can understand why that doesn't sell as well as some of the others, and but there are certain ones like this. You just worry that at some point, are they going to keep trying?
But that's why maybe the demo's so valuable. Like you talk about games like Metroid,
and don't get me wrong. I remember when the first Pikmin got announced. I remember thinking, what the fuck is this? Like, it's just some garden thing. Like, and I remember thinking it's just gonna be shite. Like, I just want another, like, say, one of the big hitters. That's what I want, And what is this? Like, and then you play it. And it's like, it's just like you say, it's just a good time. It's just, it's simple, but there is a level of challenge and I guess kind of light puzzle elements to it that kind of tax you for it. But I don't know if this is true of 4, right? But Pikmin series in general, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I hope it does well, because I don't want this to be the last Pikmin game.
Yeah, I don't want it to be a last. But yeah, I mean, we'll talk about more. Pikmin. It's not out for 2-3 weeks, July 21st, I want to say, but like the demo's available now, so go give it a try. You kind of lose nothing. If you really play the demo and you really like it, you gain. Oh, that looks a really cool game. I'm glad I'm not going to miss out on that now. And if you don't like it and you play the demo, you've lost like a couple of hours probably. So,
and you know it's not for you, rather than not trying it and always wondering.
Absolutely.
I guess.
Yeah. Definitely, and it's also got that benefit as well of being one of those Nintendo first-party games where you play it on the Switch and you go, "How have they made that look so good and run so well?"
I know, yeah. I haven't played 4, but I thought 3 Deluxe looked great on for the Switch, on the Switch, whatever you want to say. So I've seen like still pics, but I haven't seen this game run yet. So that it's really,
it's great.
Well, on that note, it is time for some
Chris Hyde. Listen to Correspondence. It's time. It's time. Chris Hyde. Okay, so listener correspondence this week. We've got a range of questions from Mick. He always gives us a few questions each. So, Adam, I'm going to go through yours first. First one is nice Pikmin 4 question. So do you think Pikmin 4 is a bigger jump from 3 as 3 was from 2?
So I did review Pikmin 3 on Wii U. I did not play Deluxe, but from what I understand it was not like they added huge amounts to it. It was very much, here's a couple of bits.
It's more just like co-op and...
Yeah, but mainly it's like, hey, do you remember that game that nobody played because it was on Wii U?
Yeah.
Let's
the
play
4
it.
people that owned a Wii U, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I think
with 3 of the 4 people, but
I'm right here.
There's one of them.
Yeah. I think it's difficult because what I played of it so far, in what in a preview sense, I mentioned this. I think we were asked about this game a few weeks ago before I had previewed it. I think it's time to stop trying to second guess Nintendo. Because we all had this thing about Tears of the Kingdom. Is like, how? Like, I get the why. The why is Benjamins. But how? And yet they've done it with every game. Like, they revealed a new Super Mario Bros. 2D game.
Oh my god! Like this,
but normally people would say that and they'd be like, "Oh, really? New Super Mario Bros. Wii?"
No, but that's what I mean. Like, because let's be honest, right? We've been making the joke. Well, all year about Odyssey 2's coming in December, guys, and it's going to be fucking brilliant. Like, we've been saying that. And I think, obviously, none of us actually believe that would happen, and it isn't, right? But I think probably in the back of our minds, we're like, but probably a 2D Mario is going to rock up at some point, right? And so, like, but you never know what it's going to be. And so obviously then it started. And you're like, okay. I was like, okay, it looks a bit cooler, like being big.
It's more animated. There's
animated,
way more animations to it.
I was like, that's cool, but I mean, if that's your only thing, then and then all of a sudden it just goes bang, 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 and then Mario shows his trunk, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, but you see, it's what they didn't show that's made me go.
No, I know. It comes back to the Zelda thing where you're like, you show me lots of things, I don't know how they connect together.
Yeah.
And I want to know.
No,
about
but I think
all of it.
on a more simple thing, right, is that we know that in those games usually you can play as like you don't have to be Mario.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they showed Mario transforming into what I'm calling Trunkio.
Yeah.
They didn't show you, but you got to assume it's in there. Princess Peach is going to be able to do the same. Toad, Luigi, you've got to assume they're all going to have these transformations.
There's elephant everybody. Yeah.
And like that to me is just
that's very weird to think about.
Do you know what I mean?
Packing anyway. If he then
this is the imagine if Luigi had a bigger. Oh no.
Yeah,
no.
He's got
trunk. I was going to say trunk, but like
yeah.
What I'm saying by that is that we all, but the games we have played, the Odysseys, the Tears of the Kingdom, I'm forget even that bloody Fire Emblem Engage, like you assume in your head because it's kind of what everyone does is, well, it'll be another sequel but more, and yet they do something that you're like, bloody hell, you didn't probably a bit like in Tears of the Kingdom, you didn't have to. Kirby is another example, 3D Kirby, way more. So I think. That's a long way of saying is that I think it's quite a big jump, and I think I'm looking forward to talking more about it in the future. That political enough?
Yeah. Do you think Final Fantasy 16 will get story DLC? We talked about this last week, didn't we? I thought.
I think he asked specifically about icons.
We talked about great name DLC.
Yeah,
like
but I think that was because he was saying, well, maybe but no, I do think it will. Yeah, definitely. But I can't.
No, he says no spoilers, obviously.
The things that I think they'll do.
From this massive cliffhanger.
Exactly that. Like I think they'll. Yeah, no, I don't think it's so much cliffhangers. I think it's more. It's a really weird game. Final Fantasy 16 is like when putting together the video review, when like editing the reviews, like when even talking about it on the podcast. Everything in that game is a spoiler. But it's also none of it's a spoiler because it's only a spoiler if you've got context for what you're seeing, which you don't have if you haven't seen it yet. Like, when you finish it, watch the trailers again, and it's one of them games where you'll go, wow,
showed us a lot.
You showed us, but they didn't because you got no context for it.
But it's the same with, we said that about Tears of the Kingdom as well. Like,
it's
you look
exactly
back and you go, you showed us that, but we didn't know it was that.
Exactly that. But it's a bit like that. So I could say to you that I think this thing, and they actually do reference one of them in the game quite late on. I think it'll get story. I don't know how they'll work it out. I don't know how they'll work it in, but it'll get some sort. I definitely think it'll get story DLC. I think quite substantial.
There's got to be. There's so many. Well, just from the bit I've played, there's so many time jumps. Surely they can slow.
I never even thought about that.
Doing.
Yeah.
This is what this person was doing in those 13
years. Yeah, they could do that.
What did you think of the DualSense features in Final Fantasy 16?
I think Square have been pretty good. People go. I know people don't like that it's not on Xbox. I know people don't like it being an exclusive when it's not a Sony product. But like the load stuff, the DualSense stuff, like a lot of it is like, this is really cool stuff. And that's what I think of it. I think it's really cool. I think Microsoft will eventually bring a controller out like that. How they bridge that gap between early adopters not owning it because it came out later, and I just don't see how. It's such a boon, that controller, what it can do. I saw a Reddit post actually talking about what was the packing game, Astro's Playroom, and how someone was saying, like, basically, I can't remember who did it, but someone, it was on a Reddit, and it was like, I love the gyro stuff in that, but it makes me sad that no one's done quite like that. You know, the spring stuff in that, where it really feels like you're pressing a spring. That controller is such a boon to the PlayStation. Of course, the power of the PlayStation, the Xbox Series X, all of this is really cool. The ultra-fast loading for the SSDs, it's all really cool, but that controller does elevate experiences. It really does. Yeah. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So then he asked, since Raincode is out soon, it reminded me of AI the Somnium Files. What will it take for you to play that? Presuming means the Somnium Files.
Yeah. the time of recording and being live, my review of Raincoat isn't up. By the time you're probably watching this, it will be up, so you can read that. In terms of AI, the summoning files, I've had nothing but good things about it. Nothing but good things. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a boring answer, but it's kind of the one where it's often going to be, this is the answer, is what would it take for you to play that? A time machine. Yeah. Or just some serious slowing down of the production line of games.
Lag, which isn't going to happen, I don't think.
It's not going to happen for a long time, no. I would imagine. No, I mean, Lyle, you've played, haven't you? You reviewed it, didn't you?
Second one.
Okay, but they're like really long visual novels, aren't they? Yeah, it's just not. It would be one of those where I'd start it and be like, "This is really cool," and then I get really sad because like, there's no way I can continue playing this right now.
100%. So, that is exactly what would
So
happen.
what's the point in torturing myself? I suppose. There you go.
There we go. On that happy note, next question: are you going to play Everybody 1-2 Switch?
Hell
That's
yeah.
the game.
Yeah.
That's the game.
Yeah, no, hell yeah.
Yeah.
It looks. We caught literally the last. We were really late for this preview because we don't. It was in London and we're not from there, and it was really really bad getting to London that day. We caught the last sort of 20 minutes of that session. What I gauged from it, and what I know from playing. Seeing trailers and stuff, is that it kind of looks a bit more like Nintendo, rather than just the 1-2 Switch thing of like it's WarioWare. It looks a bit more like it's WarioWare, but more Jackbox, because like you can control it on your phone and do stuff like that, and it's like 100 player, I think. Again, we were really late.
99 player.
Yeah,
actually.
it's a high count,
Like
and there seem to be things like Jackbox involved, but yeah. I mean, I'm one of these people that I kind of like, as much as I love really serious games, and I do, I also really do like the fact that games are just sometimes really fun. Like I sort of do. Like you probably can't tell even from seeing this footage, but we had a massive clear out of where I work, and I ended up taking a lot of stuff to the recycling dump, and a lot of it was like Guitar Hero stuff, because it was like, because you remember reading about how, I think it was in America, there were trade-in stores that refused like Rock Band and Guitar Hero stuff because it's basically like, we can't sell it. It's landfill. Mad Cats went bust essentially, didn't they? And I won, because it produced all this plastic equipment that they couldn't sell, and it did sort of make me think back. Like, I found like Rock Band drums, and I was like, I've actually got the room now. I could actually have them set up, but like, it's not going to happen, is it? No one makes those games anymore anyway. I found all those guitars, the Guitar Hero. Remember Guitar Hero Live when they brought that back and they changed the way you play? Great game with the FMV thing. But like, I'm not saying there's none of that, because there is. Like, Everybody 1-2 Switch is that kind of fun where you kind of need people. But we've, as an industry, the gaming has definitely moved towards more being like online than not, and I lament that a little bit, because I will remember forever playing games with friends in the same room. So I'm definitely, that's a long-winded way of saying I'm definitely gonna have a go on Everybody 1-2 Switch, because it will get my whole family in the room playing, maybe even my mum or in-laws over, and have a bit of a laugh. And like I say, I love me serious games, but I kind of like the games are fun as well and make you just forget about everything else. So
yeah. And I don't really know if anyone makes party games quite like Nintendo either. Like,
but you remember Buzz and all that?
I know. Yeah, this is the thing. Like, we should do another Jackbox thing. Like, we haven't done one of those for ages. They're just good.
There's
fun.
a new one of them coming still. They're still making them.
What, they were like Jackbox 26 now or something?
10 or 11? 12 it might be.
Definitely like 8 or 9, but no more. I guess
it might be I don't know. I literally remember they revealed one of the what was it at? Like one of the summer events, they revealed a new one of the mini games that they're going to be in there. But yeah, no. I should do your questions, Chris. The listeners want to know what your mojito combination would be for each staff member at God is a Geek.
I saw this and I've been slightly thinking about it, but I'm still probably going to flounder on a little bit of this. So let's just go through it. So, okay. So I'll start with Adam. I'm probably going to get this wrong. Is it gingerbread rum?
I do like a gingerbread rum.
Yeah, is that your favourite one that they don't do anymore?
No, there's a really, I found it's called well, it's not advertising, they haven't paid. There's a place called Latham's, I think it's Latham's Gin or something. They predominantly do gin, but they do a really, really nice, not cheap, it was a Christmas present, but they do a really nice gingerbread spiced rum. Really flash looking bottle as well. Like really, it feels, and it was actually better than the one I had before.
Oh, okay. So I would obviously make a mojito with gingerbread rum.
I'm into the idea.
That would be Adam's mojito.
That sounds good.
Lyle, I mean, Lyle's would probably be something that I would think. What I can't think of the combination, but let me just articulate what I mean. It's making me angry just thinking about it. That's annoying.
Yeah,
like it would be one of those flavor combinations that I would look at and go, "That's fucking disgusting." But then slowly but surely, everyone in our Patreon would say, "Actually, I bet that sounds quite nice."
Like
and then
turnip
everyone
and
would turn
custard
against
flavored
me.
or something.
Yeah. What's that? Sorry.
Turnip and custard.
Yeah, and then you say that and you go, "Oh yeah, Lyle's the turnip and custard mojito flavor," and then like McPoo rocks up and goes, "I actually really like turnips and custard," and Steve will turn up and go, "I actually think that might be all right," and you know.
So are you saying that Lyle is somehow the kind of, there were two trucks driving along somewhere, one had peanut butter and the other had loads of chocolate, they crashed into one another and the result was Lyle?
Yeah,
no,
the result was I was lying on the ground.
I'm saying that like in every way possible, Lyle irritates me. No, I'm not. No, but I do think if Lyle was a mojito, he would be a random concoction of flavors. It wouldn't be like.
See, I don't think that's. If I'm him right now, that's quite a compliment.
I know. I'm being
You're
honest.
complimenting him, I think.
I'm just gone. Oh, he's a shit flavored mojito, like poo, right? I'm literally saying
feces.
Yeah, actual fecal mojito. No, I'm saying like I do think like Lyle would be like this kind of like flamboyant mixture of flavors that you go, oh, I don't think that works. Like
flamboyant and what was the other thing you could? Oh, I don't know. He's really being nice to you.
I am. I mean, it's the truth, isn't it? Right. I mean, look at the shirt. It doesn't work for anybody that's not watching the video.
Mountain Dew and elderflower flavored or something.
What's that?
Mountain Dew and elderflower.
Yeah. I think so. Like Chris, I think Chris would just be like classic.
Yeah.
Smooth.
Powerful.
Like classic, like proper like lime mojito, but made really well. Like just straight down the line. Everyone loves it. Brilliant. Just made really well. That's Chris White.
I get that.
Mick's probably like, I don't know. How do you make a sexy mojito? You got to drink it naked first off, but like I don't.
You couldn't make one out of like
sort of
oil.
What's that? Sorry.
You know, like some sort of. Is there any kind of like edible oil? Do you know what I mean? Like grease
edible
from a mechanic
lubricant.
that's kind of. You know what I mean? Something. What's like really
like,
manly?
What are like aphrodisiacs?
Oysters or something.
I don't know. It's like an oyster mojito. Strawberries or chocolate strawberries or something like seductive or something.
I would drink a strawberry chocolate mojito.
Yeah, I mean, I've had strawberry mojitos. They're very nice. So I can
you couldn't have chocolate in a mojito.
What's that?
You couldn't. Is there a way you could have chocolate involved in a mojito somehow?
Well, we had. I'm glad you asked, Adam. So we went on holiday. No, there was. I think I told you guys we had when I was on holiday. We had these edible straws.
Oh yeah.
Which were a revelation, and they were lime
flavored.
They were lime flavored, so they went with all the mojitos. Less well with the Baileys cocktails we were drinking, but like the mojitos were banging. But I looked it up because I did briefly consider ordering a load of Amazon when we got back home.
Yeah, I looked these up too when you talked about them, by the way.
What's that?
Oh, you looked them up. Yeah.
Yeah, and they do like loads of flavors, and one of them was chocolate flavor. And so, like, I imagine you could always have a strawberry mojito with like a chocolate flavored straw.
I'm sorry, until you've said this out loud, I have only just like where the microphone is for me on the video. Apologies to audio listeners. I just have this image of you like someone sat sort of 4 tables away, not knowing about the straws, and you just sort of crunch it down on your straws slowly, and they're like,
so like.
What's going on?
It was Matilda got high off them. I swear, like she had so.
I bet
many
they're sugary. Yeah, I mean.
Oh yeah, they're proper. But like, yeah, I bet the first people.
I just have so many questions. Like what is the intended delivery method? Like, do you finish
delivery
the drink
method?
Yeah, no. Look, do you have a bit of the straw as you're getting down, but you can't go all the way, of course.
No, I think the idea fundamentally is you drink your drink and then you eat.
Well, then you eat your straw.
I don't think you're supposed to race your drink down and like get further and further into your
Oh
God.
Like,
Do you know what I mean? Like almost like a game. Like,
oh no,
wow,
you
can I-
could. Don't get me wrong. There were a couple of times where I was like, I'll have a bit of that, like now. But like, you can't keep doing that. Especially.
That's
if you've
what I
got
mean.
tall
I wanted to be
glass.
there as a
Your
third
nose
party.
just gets further and further into your
there's
glass.
just a
'cause
chap
you've got
watching
this
you.
fucking straw left.
These people watching, and he's like, "Hey, Deirdre, did he just eat his straw? No,
How hungry is this guy?
watch
It's all
this dude,
inclusive.
like,
Why is he eating straws?
he's hungry. He's eating straw. Oh, yeah. What? So mix like a straw. Okay. Well, you got more.
Yourself as well, right?
Well, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, I had a really nice mango mojito. I think that's
Refreshing, I
a
would
little bit,
imagine.
little refreshing and a little bit fruity. That's me.
Love it.
Is there a coffee mojito?
Now, I'm glad
Oh,
you brought
God.
this up because no, because you remember his random shite tonic and coffee thing.
Yeah, I don't want
yeah.
to talk about this.
No, but like, so we were talking about it in Discord about it again, taking the piss. I think Steve tried it and vomited. By the way, he made his own at home and didn't like it. But Mick was saying that you're supposed to serve this with like lime, and I was like, well, we're not actually that far away from a coffee mojito. We put a shot of rum in it. We're kind of there. And he was like, oh no, it's nothing like that. I'm like, well, you literally could have had me, and you've gone, oh no, it's not that. So I imagine if there was a coffee mojito, it would. I mean, I think I'd quite like a coffee mojito. Quite frankly, I think it'd be quite nice. But
I struggle to say anything other than I think I'd like that when the essential ingredients are rum.
rum, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Like you kind of have me, like you
Yeah,
kind of got
exactly.
me there. Like,
Yeah.
sticking with mojitos. I think I know the answer to this, and I think it's quite an easy one. But Chris, it's your question. What donut goes well with a mojito?
I mean, I think any donut
Yeah,
goes well with a mojito.
okay.
But
No,
I
that
think,
is what
like
I thought
we
it was going to be.
said before, like I prefer the ring ones rather than the like filled ones, like the American style ones. So I like with the crunchy ones you get at a fairground, that kind of type one. So I'd have one of them with like 8 mojitos.
Surely 8 of them and 8 mojitos. You might as well go all in.
Yes, 8. Yeah.
You have 2 more questions. One of them you can't answer.
I know I can't.
I'll just say that
Yeah.
you did ask thoughts on the first half of 2023 in gaming.
Been all right.
What are your top 5 barring Xenoblade Chronicles 3 DLC? Of course, we can't answer any questions that involve any kind of ranking of games because we saved that all for the end. So, but
His top 5 games of the first half of the year are very good. That's
yes,
the
they're all
answer to
good
that.
games.
They're all good games.
But you can answer
Registered
this one.
trademark.
Will you be playing Baldur's Gate 3 in August?
I want to.
Well, why would you not then? Like, are you not in charge of that? Like, if
What
You
I
don't
want, like, I'm not in control of my own hands and eyes.
it does sound like you're
but-
sort of saying,
No,
what if I'm allowed?
sorry. It's like in the same way that I want to play the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 DLC before the end
Yeah.
of the year. It's that's the reason. It's the time machine thing. And I know already with my backlog and games that I have played a lot of that absolutely still have to finish, Tears of the Kingdom, that there are things I have to do before. No, that I want to do. Let's be clear. I don't oh my god, I've been forced to finish Tears of the Kingdom, But it will be a case of I have to pick and choose because I don't have an unlimited amount of time. I have a kid, I have a job, so I've got to choose, and that's going to be a beast. Like all the beasts so far this year, and the beast yet to come. Starfield.
The cassette beasts.
So
They're
cassette
here.
beast, which I haven't even tried, which is on the list. So I want to, but I worry that it may be one of the others that.
I wrote a news story today because they said that it's got 170 hours of cutscene. Did they say cutscene?
Oh yeah.
Then
Basically,
no.
it's a big game. Basically, it's a very big game.
Then no, because
I'm
the
sure
thing
it's
is-
not all you have to see.
No,
I'm
but
sure
I
it's
think
included,
because obviously
isn't it?
there's
So-
things like that where it's like, well, it's like there are technically 186
Yeah.
endings in the quarry.
Well, it's Starfield, isn't it? There are thousands and
Yeah.
thousands of planets.
Yeah,
You're not gonna-
exactly. Yeah, it's like, but if the starting point of cutscenes or whatever you just said starts with is a 300 hours, I'm like, then no is the answer if I were playing it.
But
in
it does sound
August.
like you are undecided that you'd like to, but we'll see.
I really want to.
because I'm in the same boat as you. I'd like
Yeah.
to. We'll see.
Yes, it's that. Yeah.
Because they've just brought it forward a month on PC, haven't they? So it was due like at the end of August, and now it's the start. So.
Oh God, I've just seen Lyle's questions.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's yours done. So back to you. I'm just going to sit here with a
I know
muted
what my
mic and
questions
listen.
are.
The thing is, I know what the answer's going to be, and it's irritating, but not. Is Dave the Diver better than Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom?
I mean, yeah, it is, unfortunately. People could probably surmise that would be my stance on it. Dave the Diver's really, really fucking good, though. So I don't think it's not as controversial as some of my things I say are better than these games. So
No.
Could be worse.
Is Dave the Diver this year's Chained Echoes?
I think Sea of Stars is probably going to be this year's Chained Echoes. Really,
I don't think this is this year's Chained Echoes at all because
I think this is going to get played
because one Chained Echoes.
No, I didn't mean it. That sounded really. What I mean is, I've already played it. Chris is close.
That was the problem. Chained Echoes came out right at the end.
Oh, if that's the question, then the answer's probably going to be Avatar, isn't it? Because that's out in December. Wait, what's it called?
I also guess the thrust of the question is obviously Lyle was your game of the year.
Yeah.
But also and that no one really played it. And it's one of those ones that. But I think this one's everywhere at the moment. I can't not move for seeing.
I'd be surprised if we get to Game of the Year conversations and only Lyle and I have still played this.
Yeah.
Very
you
surprised,
won't let me. You'll say you're not playing Tears of the Kingdom ending.
You're choosing not to play Tears of the Kingdom at the moment for Final Fantasy. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's not Lyle that's not a Zelda fan anymore. I don't know.
Listen,
we all make choices.
What I will say to that before I get shot down is that I play Final Fantasy, so I'll talk about it on the pod. So there's a point to me existing.
Yeah, all right, okay. You win this round. Yeah,
I win this round.
He's won this round. Yeah.
Do you think Pikmin 1 and 2 at $30 each are worth it, given they seem like upscale ports rather than what we got in Super Mario 3D All Stars for Galaxy and Sunshine, which had more work put into them, seemingly?
I mean, that depends.
You got that question. Well done.
Yeah, it's basically, do you think Pikmin's worth it?
Yeah,
because they're not as ground up meddled with, and the answer to that is it depends what playing Pikmin's worth to you, really. They're really good and I'm really enjoying them. I didn't have to worry about the money side, so that's kind of part of it, really. I mean, I can understand that it might seem expensive for, it doesn't really feel like you're playing much different than the GameCube game when you're playing the Switch versions. They're a bit shinier.
Isn't that the point of them? Because I always feel with Switch releases like this, the point of them isn't look at all the work we've done. It's that, everyone owns a Switch. Lots of people own more than one Switch.
And you can play
it
this in your hands instead of using a TV.
I feel like my view on it is that I think $30 is probably the top end.
Yeah.
Because nothing's been done to it. When you think about I know.
Well, not nothing. They are HD, to be fair, aren't they?
Yeah. But when you think about back in the day virtual console prices to then jump to here, I think that's probably the top end of what you would want. I think is right. I think if they go above that for this type of thing, I think it's.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's
much. But I think, like you say, let's not pretend that playing Pikmin on the shitter is not great.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel dirty it pays dirty. It sounds dirty to sort of play that game though on it. It's so sweet.
It doesn't deserve.
Well, that's unfortunate for the hours I've put in.
I mean, it's a choice, isn't it? It's your choice. If you don't,
it is. I don't.
What I'd say, play the demo of Pikmin 4. If you don't want to pay anything,
that's what I was going to say as well.
I really are like, I've never tried this series. Should I pay $30 for the first one and get into it, or should I just play the demo? Just play the demo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Demos are such a. I'm glad to see more. Nintendo seem to be doing it a lot.
There's a lot of
Square Enix too. Yeah. It's good. It's great to see demos, and when I say demos, I mean actual demos, not beta tests. It's great to see demos slowly getting. Maybe publishers are realizing actually we sell more copies if we let people have a quick go on it and go, I really like that. It doesn't seem like it should need anyone to remind them that, but.
Yeah, there's a reason they existed before. Do you remember?
There's a reason the phrase "try before you buy" is so appealing to kind of everyone everywhere. You know, there's a reason why you walk in a Sainsbury's and they've got samples of vodka or something, and you're like, yeah, you know what I mean?
But especially now when money's tight. I know money's never been free flowing, but it is.
It's tighter now for most people than ever.
Yeah,
yeah, no,
it's definitely
absolutely.
worth knowing that you want to know you're going to like it before you drop the money for it. So.
But this is, I mean, not the podcast, but this is a conversation I've had with a few people recently that I think there's a critical mass coming with games. I've done this a long time. I can't get over how many games come on the regular. There's only so much disposable income anyone's got. There has to come a critical mass where games, and you're seeing a lot of service games just shutting down now because there's no one's playing them. There's a critical mass coming, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's not enough people to spread across all of them.
There's not enough disposable income. There's not enough time. There's not enough. Anyway, it's not the podcast for it. We'll be here for hours. Yeah. Sorry, back. Go on, Chris.
Are you playing or going to play Raincode?
I'm not certain because I'm not currently playing Raincode. Adam is, because he said he'd written a review and it's going to be live soon. So I mean, it's one of those where it's like, if I had a time machine, it'd be one of the games I made sure I played this year.
I always feel like it's a cop out when we do that, but it really is true. It really is. Like, I would play AI the Somnium Files if I could stop time. I would. It's
100%, and it's one of those where it's like, it's a game where I'm interested in it and I would like to play it in an ideal world, but at the same time, I know that currently I need to make sure before the end of the year I play Final Fantasy 16.
And you've got that sitting waiting for you, haven't you?
I do, and I've not started that. I've got Street Fighter 6. I need to play Diablo 4. I've had like a couple of sessions of like those three. I definitely want.
These
to
are
play
big games. Like these are big games.
There was Jedi Survivor. I'm
Jesus,
like teetering on the edge of if I will or not bother with that because I'm not certain it's the sort of game that I will click with. But I mean, but like if there's Raincode that might be like less important for Game of the Year times than those three, maybe four
this
games.
Is the thing I was saying earlier about Baldur's Gate, right? It just is like there's lots of good games and lots of games, and it's just like at some point you just have to go. What? It's not just what do I fancy, but there is, we do, no surprise, we kind of try the things that are going to be in that conversation to have a rounded view at the end of the year. So it's not one person going, well, I'm the only one that's played this on every single game. You try and play enough of each game that needs talking about to kind of have a good conversation about it. So it's not just a monologue, right? So it is a thing. It's the truth.
But that probably means there's a decent chance I won't play Raincode. I'm not saying I'm definitely not going to, but I'm saying it could very much go either way.
Yeah. Is a ROG Ally better than Breath of the Wild?
I don't know. I've never held in my hands a ROG Ally, so I can't say that is something that is better than Breath of the Wild or not, because it's also quite a different thing to Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
Like, do you like a cheese sandwich or Breath of the Wild? Like, they're not really in the same categories. I don't think Breath of the Wild's that amazing, so if the ROG Ally is really good, I'll think that's better, but I can't.
Mojito's better than.
And a mojito is 100% better than Breath of the Wild, as we've confirmed now multiple times on the podcast.
Shall I play the jingle?
Go on then, before I get cancelled. Chris Hyde, listen to Correspondence. It's time. It's time. Chris Hyde.
Well, that's a podcast for this week. Speaking of Raincode, that's what we'll talk about that next week, I think. We'll have a chat about that game next week as well as other games. I can't even think that far in advance at the moment, a week in advance, but Raincode we will definitely have a chat about next week. Chris, Lyle, thank you for being here, obviously, as always. Do go to patreon.com/godisageek if you want to find out more about us and you want to find out a way of supporting us, or we mentioned the Discord a few times. If you want to come and join that Discord and chat with us, you can find out how there. You will get exclusive videos and early access to other podcasts that are only on Patreon, and videos like the Dave the Diver first look video I did recently that people on Patreon had a few days before it went public, and we will be trying to do more and more of that as the year goes on. Do go to the social medias, whichever one you're choosing, and you will find us at God is a Geek on almost all of them, I would imagine. TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. If you're not watching, make sure you go there and you subscribe. And this podcast, if you're just listening, you'll be able to see us and see some game footage and see all sorts of stuff. And we sometimes put out little shorts that are based on the podcast, little clips that give you an idea about bits. It's usually listener correspondence because it's easier to cut those bits up than it is like long form chats
That's
about
where
a game.
the absolute shenanigans happen.
Yeah, because otherwise it's quite important and professional game critique. So do go to youtube.com/GodIsAGeek and subscribe there. Hit the old thumbs up on a video. Send us a question. If you want a question asked next week, leave it in the comments to this. And if you go to Patreon, you can watch the video early, because once we've done this live, it goes back into the shadows just until Monday, when it comes back out of the shadows and waves to the world again. Chris and Lyle, thank you again, and thank you for watching or listening, or however you consume this podcast, production podcast, there, sort of portmanteau of the two. Thanks very much, and we'll speak to you next week, or whenever you choose to listen. Bye-bye for now.